Commander Jake Morrison stood at the window of the United Nations Space Command headquarters and stared at the night sky. Somewhere beyond those stars, 3 alien fleets were coming to destroy Earth. He pressed his hand against the cold glass and let out a slow breath. "They will be here in 6 hours," Admiral Richard Cole said behind him. The old admiral's voice was steady, but Jake heard the tension underneath. 342 warships. We have 12. Jake turned away from the window. The command center buzzed with activity as officers moved between stations. Screens displayed tactical data and projected attack patterns. None of it looked good. "The Cathara Empire is leading the assault," Cole continued. He pulled up a holographic display showing enemy formations. The Valdron Collective and Zephan League are supporting them. They sent us their final message an hour ago. "Let me guess," Jake said. "Surrender or die." "Close enough. They want us to hand over all military assets, dismantle our fleet, and accept their oversight of Earth's government." Cole's jaw tightened. "They called us primitive upstarts who got lucky finding faster-than-light travel." Jake had heard it all before. Humanity had only been traveling between stars for 30 years. To the alien species who had been doing it for thousands of years, humans were children playing with dangerous toys. The Galactic Council had made that clear from the first contact. "Where's Dr. Hayes?" Jake asked, on her way up from Luna Base. Cole gestured to a chair. "Sit down, Commander. We need to talk about your project." Jake sat. He knew what was coming. "The railgun," Cole said simply. "Is it ready?" "No," Jake shook his head. "We have never fired it at full power. The energy requirements are enormous. Every test we have run has been at 20% capacity or less. But theoretically, it works." "Theoretically, yes. Dr. Hayes and I have checked the math 100 times. The physics is sound." Jake leaned forward. "But Admiral, if something goes wrong, we could overload every fusion reactor on Luna. The explosion would be visible from Earth." Cole was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "If we do nothing, Earth falls in 6 hours. The aliens will strip our world of everything valuable and enslave our people. I have seen what the Cathara do to conquered species." The door opened and Dr. Linda Hayes walked in. She looked tired. Her gray hair was pulled back in a messy knot, and she carried a datapad covered in calculations. "Admiral, Jake." She nodded to both men. "I assume we are discussing whether to fire the untested superweapon at the approaching alien armada." "Yes," Cole said. Linda sat down heavily. "The railgun will work. I stake my reputation on it." "Your reputation won't matter much if we are all dead," Jake said, but there was no anger in his voice. Linda had been his mentor for 15 years. He trusted her completely. "Then let me stake my life on it instead." Linda pulled up her datapad and displayed her calculations on the main screen. "Look, the projectile is 5 tons of tungsten carbide. We accelerate it through electromagnetic rails to 15% of light speed. At that velocity, the kinetic energy alone is devastating. The aliens have shields," Cole pointed out. "Energy shields," Linda corrected. "Designed to deflect lasers, plasma bolts, and particle beams. They have nothing that can stop a solid projectile moving at relativistic speed. Their shields might as well be paper." Jake studied the numbers. He had seen them before, had helped create them, but seeing them now felt different. This was real. This was happening. "The aliens think kinetic weapons are primitive," Linda continued. "They abandoned them centuries ago in favor of energy weapons. They never developed railgun technology because their home worlds do not have strong magnetic fields like Earth does. That was the key. Earth's violent geological history had created a powerful magnetosphere. Humans had grown up studying magnetic fields, learning to harness them. It was as natural to humanity as breathing. To the aliens, it was an outdated curiosity. How long to charge the weapon to full power? Cole asked. 4 hours, Jake said. We need to divert power from every fusion reactor on Luna. Some cities on Earth will experience blackouts. Do it. Jake and Linda exchanged glances. This was it. No more tests. No more calculations. They were going to fire the first human railgun at full power. And their target would be alien warships. I will give the order, Jake said quietly. He activated his communication link to Luna Base. This is Commander Morrison. Authorization code Morrison77 Delta. Begin charging sequence for Project Thunderbolt. Full power. There was a pause. Then a voice responded, Confirmed, Commander. Charging sequence initiated. Time to full power, 3 hours, 52 minutes. Across the moon's surface, massive fusion reactors roared to life. Power flowed through kilometers of superconducting cables toward the railgun platform. The weapon itself was simple in design but enormous in scale. 2 parallel rails, each 3 kilometers long, stretched across the lunar surface like a bridge to nowhere. Captain Amy Chun's face appeared on another screen. She was aboard the EDS Liberator, humanity's flagship and largest vessel. Admiral Cole, enemy fleet has entered the outer solar system. They are moving into attack formation. How long until they reach firing range? Cole asked. 90 minutes, sir. Cole looked at Jake. Will the railgun be ready in time? It will be close, Jake admitted. Very close. The next hour passed in terrible silence. Jake watched the power levels climb. 50%. 60%. The reactors were straining. He saw warning lights flashing on his console but ignored them. They had no choice. Ambassador Karen Wright appeared on screen. She looked defeated. Admiral, the aliens have rejected our final peace offer. High Archon Velanoth of the Cathara sent a personal message. He says Earth has 1 hour to surrender or they will begin orbital bombardment. Tell him we decline, Cole said coldly. Karen's eyes widened. Sir, they will destroy our cities. Then we better make sure they do not get the chance. Cole cut the transmission. 70% power. 80%. All non-essential personnel are evacuating from Luna Base, Linda reported. If this goes wrong, I want as few casualties as possible. Jake nodded. He understood. If the railgun failed catastrophically, the explosion would destroy everything within 50 kilometers of the platform. Enemy fleet is within weapons range, Captain Chun reported. They are targeting our orbital stations. Preparing to fire. 90% power, Jake said. His hands were shaking. Hold your fire, Captain, Cole ordered. Let them get closer. The first alien weapons fired. Blue plasma bolts streaked across space. Earth's orbital defense stations returned fire, but their weapons were weak compared to the alien arsenal. One by one, the stations went dark. 95%, Jake said. They are launching fighters, Chun reported. Hundreds of them. Admiral, we need to engage now or we will be overwhelmed. Not yet, Cole said. He was watching the tactical display with absolute focus. 100% power, Jake announced. The railgun is ready to fire. Admiral Cole stood up. He looked at Jake, then at Linda, then at the screen showing the approaching alien fleet. 300 ships against 12. It should have been slaughter. Fire, Cole said. Jake's finger moved to the firing control. He thought about Earth, about the billions of people who had no idea their fate was being decided in this moment. About the alien commander who thought humans were primitive and weak. He pressed the button. On the surface of Luna, the railgun fired. 6 months earlier, Jake Morrison had stood in this same laboratory with Dr. Linda Hayes and thought they were wasting their time. It will never work, he had said, looking at the prototype rails on the test platform. The energy requirements are impossible. Linda had smiled at him. That patient smile she always gave when her students were missing something obvious. Jake, everything is impossible until someone does it. Sit down and let me show you something. She had pulled up a simulation on her computer. It showed Earth rotating, its magnetic field flowing in blue lines around the planet. What do you see? She asked. Earth magnetosphere, Jake replied. Standard planetary science. Now look at this. Linda pulled up data from 4 other planets. Alien home worlds. Their magnetic fields were weak, barely visible. The Cathara homeworld has almost no magnetic field. The Veldrum planet has one, but it is unstable and shifts constantly. The Zephan evolved on a moon orbiting a gas giant. No magnetic field at all. Jake had started to understand. Earth is different, Linda continued. Our iron core, our tectonic activity, our violent geological history, all of it created this. She gestured at the glowing blue lines. Humans grew up with magnetism. We studied it. We learned to use it. It is in our technology, our power generation, our medical equipment. To us, magnetic fields are normal. But to them, Jake said slowly, it is foreign. Exactly. The aliens developed energy weapons because that is what made sense for their worlds. Lasers, plasma, particle beams. They perfected energy shields to counter energy weapons. But kinetic weapons? Linda shook her head. They abandoned those centuries ago. Too primitive. Too simple. Jake had looked at the prototype rails with new eyes. So they have no defense against a projectile moving at high speed. Not just high speed. Relativistic speed. Linda's eyes had gleamed with excitement. 15% of light speed. At that velocity, a 5-ton projectile carries more kinetic energy than most antimatter weapons. And unlike antimatter, there is no radiation signature to detect before impact. They had worked for 3 months to build the first test model. It was small, only 50 meters long, and could only achieve 2% of light speed. But it worked. The first test projectile had punched through 6 meters of reinforced steel like it was not there. We need to build a bigger one, Jake had said now, sitting in the command center as the railgun charged. Jake remembered every calculation, every test, every moment of doubt. Lieutenant Chris Palmer sat at the weapons station aboard the EDS Liberator, watching his sensors as the alien fleet approached. Sir, the aliens are broadcasting on all channels, Chris reported. They are demanding we power down our weapons. Captain Amy Chun looked at the tactical display. The alien ships were beautiful in a terrible way. Sleek hulls covered in glowing energy shields. Weapon ports bristling with plasma cannons. They moved through space with absolute confidence. Ignore their transmission, Amy said quietly. On the lunar surface, the railgun hummed with barely contained power. The magnetic coils along the rails glowed white-hot. Cooling systems pumped liquid nitrogen through the system, trying to prevent a meltdown. Engineers watched their displays with growing concern. Commander Morrison, we are getting thermal warnings across the entire platform, one engineer reported. The rails are heating faster than projected. Can we fire? Jake asked. Yes, but we need to do it soon. If we wait too long, the heat will warp the rails. Jake checked the power levels. 100%. The railgun was ready. He activated his communication link to Admiral Cole. Sir, we are ready to fire, but we have a thermal issue. We need to shoot within the next 2 minutes or abort. Cole looked at the tactical display. The alien fleet was in perfect position. Their flagship, the massive Cathara vessel called Eternal Dawn, was at the center of their formation. High Archon Velonath commanded from that ship. You have authorization to fire at will, Cole said. Jake turned to his targeting officer. Lock on the enemy flagship. Center mass. Target locked, sir. Jake took a deep breath. This was it. Everything they had worked for came down to this moment. 5 tons of tungsten carbide, accelerated to 15% of light speed. About to cross the void of space faster than any human weapon had ever moved. Fire, Jake said. The electromagnetic rails discharged their power in an instant. The projectile, sitting in the cradle between the rails, was grabbed by invisible magnetic forces and hurled forward. It accelerated down the 3-kilometer length of the rails in less than a second. From Earth, people saw a flash of brilliant light on the moon's surface. It was brighter than the sun for just a moment. Then it was gone. From space, the railgun's discharge looked like a streak of blue-white lightning. The projectile itself was invisible, moving too fast for sensors to track properly. But its path through space was marked by a trail of ionized particles. On the bridge of the Liberator, every sensor alarm went off at once. What was that? Amy demanded. Chris Palmer stared at his displays. I do not know, Captain. I detected a massive energy discharge from Luna Base. And now there is something moving toward the alien fleet at incredible speed. High Archon Velanoth of the Cathora was reviewing the surrender terms he would impose on Earth when his ship's alarms screamed. His tactical officer looked up in confusion. Archon, sensors detect an object approaching at extreme velocity. Impact in 3 seconds. Velanoth frowned. What kind of object? A missile? I do not know, sir. It is too small and too fast. Our sensors cannot get a clear reading. Raise shields, Velanoth ordered, but he was not concerned. Human weapons were primitive. Their missiles were slow. Whatever they had launched, it would splash harmlessly against the Eternal. Dawn shields. The projectile covered the distance from Luna to the alien fleet in 4 seconds. It did not slow down. It did not maneuver. It simply flew in a perfectly straight line toward its target. The Eternal Dawn's energy shields were designed to deflect energy weapons. Lasers would bend around them. Plasma would dissipate. Particle beams would scatter. But a solid piece of metal weighing 5 tons and moving at 15% of light speed was something else entirely. The projectile hit the shields and passed through them like they were not there. The shields flickered once, trying to respond to something they were not designed to stop, and then collapsed. The tungsten carbide slug hit the Eternal Dawn's hull at the ship's exact center. The kinetic energy released in that instant was beyond comprehension. The ship's armor, designed to withstand plasma fire and laser strikes, offered no resistance at all. The projectile punched through the hull, through the interior compartments, through the reactor core, and out the other side. It took less than a microsecond. The ship was there, and then it was not. The Eternal Dawn exploded. Not from any weapon, but from its own reactor losing containment. The explosion was so bright that ships hundreds of kilometers away had to dim their view screens, but the projectile was not finished. It had lost very little velocity passing through the flagship. It continued on its path, perfectly straight, perfectly accurate. The second ship in line was a Veldron cruiser. The projectile hit it near the bow and exited through the stern. The ship broke in half. The third ship was another Cathora vessel. It tried to maneuver out of the way, but the projectile was already there. It punched through the engineering section, and the ship went dark. The fourth ship was smaller, a Zephyr destroyer. The projectile clipped it along the side, shearing off the entire port section. The ship spun out of control, venting atmosphere. Then, finally, the projectile's energy was spent. It tumbled off into space, a piece of metal that had just changed the course of galactic history. For a long moment, nobody moved. On Earth, in the command center, Jake Morrison stared at his displays in shock. The thermal readings from the railgun showed the weapon had performed perfectly. The power discharge had been exactly as calculated. But he had not expected this. 4 ships destroyed or disabled in a single shot. On the bridge of the Liberator, Captain Chun stood frozen. Her sensors showed the devastation clearly. The alien flagship was debris. 3 other ships were gone. The rest of the fleet had stopped moving. Every single alien ship had stopped moving. The silence that followed was absolute. 338 alien warships hung motionless in space. Not a single weapon fired. Not a single ship moved. They simply stopped, as if someone had pressed pause on the entire battle. Captain Amy Chun stood on the bridge of the Liberator and tried to understand what she was seeing. Her tactical display showed the alien fleet in complete disarray. Ships that had been moving in perfect formation were now drifting. Some were turning away. Others were trying to establish distance from the debris field that used to be the Eternal Dawn. "Chris, what are they doing?" Amy asked. Lieutenant Chris Palmer was scanning every frequency he could find. "Captain, they are transmitting on every channel at once. It sounds like chaos. The Cathar ships are calling for new orders. The Veldron fleet is demanding to know what hit them. The Zephon are asking if we have more of those weapons. Do we?" Amy asked, though she knew Chris would not have that answer. In the command center on Earth, Admiral Cole was asking the same question. "Commander Morrison, can we fire again?" Jake looked at his displays. The railgun status readings were flashing yellow across the board. The weapon itself was intact, but the heat levels were extreme. "Not immediately, sir. We need at least 6 hours to cool down the rails and recharge the power systems." "Do not tell the aliens that," Cole said quietly. Jake understood immediately. "Let them think humanity could fire again at any moment. Let them fear the next shot." Dr. Linda Hayes was reviewing the data from the firing. Her hand shook slightly as she pulled up the impact analysis. "Jake, look at this." The projectile maintained 98% of its velocity after passing through the first ship. The energy shields did not slow it down at all. They were not designed to stop solid matter. "They underestimated us," Jake said. "They did more than that. They forgot that kinetic weapons even existed as a threat." Linda pulled up the sensor logs from the Liberator. "Look at how long it took their sensors to identify what was coming. They were expecting energy weapons. When our projectile appeared on their scopes, their computers did not know what to classify it as." On the view screen, the alien fleet was beginning to reorganize. But they were no longer moving toward Earth. They were holding position, and some ships were actually moving backward. "Admiral, we are receiving a transmission from the Veldron fleet," an officer reported. "They are requesting a ceasefire." Cole looked at the display showing alien formations. "What about the Cathara and Zephon?" "The Cathar ships are in complete disarray, sir. They have not responded to any hails. The Zephon fleet is breaking formation. Some of their ships are withdrawing from the combat zone. The entire invasion was falling apart." Cole had seen battles before, and commanded fleets through desperate fights, but he had never seen anything like this. 1 shot, 1 weapon, and 3 alien species were running. "Put the Veldron through," Cole ordered. The view screen changed to show a Veldron commander. His species looked almost human, but with pale blue skin and 4 arms. His expression was something Cole had never seen on an alien face before. It was fear. "I am Consul Thyrin of the Veldrum Collective," the alien said. His voice was shaking. "On behalf of my people, I request immediate cessation of hostilities. We acknowledge that we have gravely miscalculated your capabilities." "You came to conquer Earth," Cole said coldly. "You brought 300 ships to destroy 12. Now you want to stop fighting because we hurt you?" "Admiral Cole, please understand. We were told that humanity possessed only primitive weapons, energy-based armaments comparable to what our civilization used 500 years ago. We were told your ships were slow and your defenses were weak. Thyron looked off-screen at something, then back. We were not told you possessed planet-killer weapons. Planet killer? Cole raised an eyebrow. What else would you call a weapon that can destroy 4 warships in a single shot? Thorin's 4 arms made a gesture that might have been the Veldron equivalent of a shrug. Our sensors are still analyzing what you fired at us. The energy readings are unlike anything in our databases. The velocity is impossible without exotic matter containment. And yet you did it. Cole glanced at Jake, who was watching from another screen. They both knew the truth. The railgun was powerful, yes, but calling it a planet killer was generous. It could destroy ships, but firing it at a planet would be ineffective. The atmosphere would burn up the projectile long before impact. But the aliens did not know that. We have more weapons like it, Cole lied smoothly. And we can fire them again whenever we choose. That was also a lie, but Theron did not need to know that either. The Veldron consul's skin turned a paler shade of blue. Then we formally request mercy. The Veldron Collective withdraws from this invasion. We had no quarrel with Earth. We were following the Catharis lead. This was their war, not ours. And what about the Zephon? Cole asked. They are withdrawing as we speak. Their war master has already ordered a full retreat. I believe only the Cathar remain, and they have no leadership. High Archon Velinoth commanded their fleet, and he's dead. Dead. Cole thought about that. He had just killed an alien leader, a being who commanded respect across multiple star systems. It had taken one shot. The whole thing felt unreal. Stand down your weapons and withdraw to the orbit of Mars, Cole ordered. Any ship that approaches Earth's orbital space will be fired upon. Understood? Understood, Admiral. Thank you for your mercy. Thyron bowed his head and ended the transmission. Cole sat back in his chair and let out a breath. He did not know he was holding. Around him, the command center erupted in cheers. Officers were hugging each other, laughing, crying. They had been facing certain defeat. Now they had won, but Jake Morrison did not feel like celebrating. He was looking at the debris field on his screen. Thousands of aliens had died in those 4 ships. He had killed them. Yes, they had come to destroy Earth. Yes, it was self-defense. But they were still dead because he pressed a button. Linda put a hand on his shoulder. You saved billions of lives today, Jake. Remember that. I know, Jake said quietly. But I will also remember the lives I took. On the bridge of the Liberator, Captain Chun was receiving reports from across the fleet. Every human ship was intact. Not a single casualty. The aliens had never gotten close enough to fire on the main fleet. Their entire invasion had stopped the moment the railgun fired. Captain, sensors are detecting movement in the Cathar fleet, Chris reported. They are regrouping around one of their cruisers. I think someone is taking command. Amy watched the display. The Cathar ships were trying to form up again. She wondered if they would be stupid enough to attack. Surely they had seen what happened to their flagship. Her communicator beeped. It was Admiral Cole. Captain Chun, monitor the Cathar closely. If they make any aggressive moves, inform me immediately. But do not fire unless fired upon. Yes, sir. The Cathar ships continued to regroup for another hour. Then, slowly they began to withdraw. Not to Mars like the Veldron, but out of the solar system entirely. They fled at maximum speed, not even stopping to recover escape pods from their destroyed ships. They are running, Chris said with wonder in his voice. Can you blame them? Amy replied. She thought about what it must have looked like from their perspective. A weapon they could not detect until it fired. A projectile their sensors could barely track. Shields that did nothing. armor that might as well have been paper, and the terrifying knowledge that Earth might have more of those weapons ready to fire. The human fleet had not moved. The 12 ships remained in defensive positions around Earth. They did not chase the fleeing aliens. They simply watched them go back on Luna base. Engineers were carefully cooling down the railgun. The weapon had performed beyond expectations, but it had also pushed every system to the limit. Repairs would be needed before it could fire again. Jake walked through the control room, looking at the faces of his team. They looked exhausted but proud. They had built something that changed everything. "Commander, we are getting reports from Earth," one officer said. "News networks are broadcasting what happened. The whole planet knows." Jake nodded. Of course they did. The flash from the railgun firing had been visible from Earth. People would have seen it. And now they would know that humanity had a weapon that scared the aliens. He thought about what came next. The aliens would not forget this. The Valdran and Zephan might accept peace, but there would be others who saw humanity's weapon as a threat that needed to be eliminated. Earth had just announced to the galaxy that it could defend itself. The question was, what would the galaxy do about it? On the view screen in the command center, Admiral Cole watched the last alien ship leave the solar system. Ambassador Karen Wright stood beside him, her earlier despair replaced with quiet shock. "We won," she said, as if she could not believe it. "We survived," Cole corrected. "Winning comes next." 3 days after the railgun fired, Jake Morrison received a visitor he had not expected. War Master Kefra of the Zephan League walked into the conference room at United Nations headquarters with an escort of 4 guards. The Zephan was massive, nearly 3 meters tall, with gray armored skin and 3 eyes that blinked independently. "Commander Morrison," Kefra said in surprisingly clear English, "I am told you are the creator of the weapon that destroyed 4 ships. Jake stood up slowly. He had no idea what to expect from this meeting. The Zephan had been part of the invasion force. Now their war master was on Earth, supposedly for diplomatic talks. Admiral Cole and Ambassador Karen Wright sat on either side of Jake. "I designed the railgun." "Yes," Jake said carefully. Kefra made a sound that might have been a laugh. "The railgun. Such a simple name for such an elegant weapon. My species respects strength, Commander. You demonstrated strength. That is why I am here." "You came to conquer us," Karen said coldly. "Now you want to talk about respect?" "I came because the Kathora convinced us that humanity was weak," Kefra replied. His 3 eyes focused on her. "They said your species was barely capable of space travel. They said your weapons were primitive. They said you would surrender after the first assault." He looked back at Jake. They were wrong about all of it. Admiral Cole leaned forward. "War Master, what exactly do you want?" "To understand." Kefra pulled out a data device and placed it on the table. A hologram appeared showing the railgun firing. "Our scientists have been analyzing this for 3 days. They cannot explain how you achieve such velocity without antimatter or exotic matter. Your projectile was simple tungsten carbide. Basic metals. Yet it moved at 15% of light speed and carried enough kinetic energy to punch through our heaviest armor." Dr. Linda Hayes entered the room at that moment. She had been listening from the observation area. "May I?" she asked Cole. The Admiral nodded. Linda sat down across from Kefra. "War Master, answer me honestly. What is the magnetic field strength of your home world?" Kefra looked confused by the question. "My species evolved on a moon orbiting a gas giant. We have no planetary magnetic field." "Why does this matter?" "Because it explains everything," Linda said. She pulled up a display showing Earth's magnetosphere. Humanity grew up with this. Our planet's core generates one of the strongest magnetic fields in known space. We have been studying magnetism and electromagnetic forces since ancient times. It is as natural to us as breathing. And you use this knowledge to build your weapon, Kefra said slowly. Yes, a railgun is simple in concept. Two parallel rails carrying an enormous electric current. The projectile sits between them, completing the circuit. The magnetic field generated by the current accelerates the projectile forward. With enough power, you can achieve incredible velocities. Kefra was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "My species abandoned kinetic weapons 2,000 years ago. We focused on energy weapons because they were more efficient, more precise. We developed shields to counter energy weapons. Every species in the galaxy did the same." His three eyes blinked in sequence. "We forgot that there was another way. And now?" Admiral Cole asked, "What happens now that you remember?" "Now the galaxy changes," Kefra said simply. "Word of your weapon has spread to every corner of civilized space. The Galactic Council is in chaos. Species that have been at peace for centuries are suddenly afraid. They are asking themselves, if humanity can build this weapon, what else can they build?" Jake felt a chill run down his spine. He had not thought about the broader implications. He had been focused on defending Earth. But Kefra was right. The railgun had proven that humanity thought differently from other species. That Earth's unique history gave humans advantages that aliens did not have. "What does the Council want from us?" Karen asked. "They want to inspect your weapon. They want to understand it. Some want abandoned entirely as too dangerous." Kefra made a gesture with his massive hands. "But I am not here for the Council. I am here for my own people. The Zephon League wishes to establish diplomatic relations with Earth. We wish to trade with you. And we wish to learn from you." "Learn what?" Jake asked. "Everything. Your electromagnetic technology. Your magnetic field research. Your approach to physics and engineering." Kefra leaned forward. "Commander Morrison, you broke the stalemate that has dominated galactic warfare for a millennium. Energy weapons versus energy shields. It was balanced, predictable, safe in a way. But your railgun has changed that balance. Now every species must reconsider their defenses." Linda smiled slightly. "You want to build your own railguns?" "Eventually, yes. But we do not have your understanding of magnetic fields. It would take us decades, perhaps centuries, to develop that knowledge from scratch." Kefra's three eyes focused on Linda. "Unless you teach us." Admiral Cole stood up. "War Master, 3 days ago your fleet came to destroy Earth. Now you want us to share our technology with you. You must think we are fools." "I think you are survivors," Kefra replied calmly. "And survivors understand the value of allies. The Kathara Empire will not forget what happened here. Their pride is wounded. They will want revenge. The Veldron Collective may have withdrawn, but they are opportunists. If they see weakness, they will strike again." He stood up, towering over everyone in the room. "The galaxy is a dangerous place, Admiral. Earth needs friends. And you want to be our friend?" Karen asked skeptically. "I want to respect your strength. That is the beginning of friendship." After Kefra left, the four humans sat in silence for several minutes. Finally, Karen spoke. "Can we trust him?" "No," Cole said immediately. "But he's right about one thing. Earth needs allies. We cannot stand alone against the entire galaxy." "We have shown them we can defend ourselves," Jake pointed out. "We showed them we have one weapon," Linda corrected. "One weapon that takes 6 hours to recharge and requires the power output of an entire lunar colony to fire. What happens when they figure out our limitations?" Jake had been thinking about that problem. "We build more railguns. Place them at strategic points throughout the solar system. Make it impossible for any fleet to approach Earth without facing multiple weapons. That will take years," Cole said. Then we better start now. Over the next 2 weeks, more alien delegations arrived at Earth. The Veldrons sent Consul Thyron back to negotiate a formal peace treaty. A species called the Quen, who humanity had never met before, sent representatives asking to establish trade routes. Even some of the minor species from the outer regions made contact, curious about the humans who had stopped 3 fleets with a single shot. But the Cathar Empire remained silent. Their ships had fled the solar system and had not returned. Intelligence reports suggested they were rebuilding their fleet. Ambassador Wright spent hours trying to open communication channels with them, but every message went unanswered. "They are planning something," Curran told Cole during one late-night meeting. The Cathara do not forgive. They do not forget. High Archon Velanoth was their greatest military leader. "We killed him. They will want blood." "Let them come," Cole said. "By the time they return, we will have 3 more railguns operational." Jake was overseeing the construction of those new weapons. The second railgun was being built on Mars. The third would be on one of Jupiter's moons. The fourth would be another platform on Luna, on the opposite side from the first. Together, they would create a defensive network that could protect Earth from any direction. But building them was harder than firing the first one had been. The fusion reactors needed to power them were enormous. The superconducting cables had to be manufactured to exact specifications, and every component had to be tested repeatedly to ensure it would not fail during firing. "This is going to cost more than Earth's entire defense budget for the next decade," Linda said, reviewing the construction estimates. "Then we find the money," Jake replied, "because the alternative is being conquered." He stood at the window of his office on Luna Base and looked at Earth hanging in the black sky. The planet looked peaceful from here. Blue oceans, white clouds, green continents. It was hard to believe that just 2 weeks ago, it had been hours away from invasion. "Do you regret it?" Linda asked quietly. "Building the railgun?" Jake thought about the question. He thought about the alien ships he had destroyed. The thousands of lives ended in an instant. He thought about High Archon Velanoth, who died never understanding what killed him. "No," Jake said finally. "I regret that it was necessary. But I do not regret doing it." "Good," Linda said, "because we are going to need more weapons like it. Maybe different designs. Maybe something even more powerful. One step at a time," Jake said. "First we finish the defense network. Then we can think about what comes next." But both of them knew what came next. Earth had revealed its strength to the galaxy. Now it had to maintain that strength, improve it, and be ready for whatever challenges came. The galaxy was watching, some with respect, some with fear, and some, like the Cathara, with hatred. The age of human isolation was over. Earth was a power in the galaxy now, whether it wanted to be or not. 3 months had passed since the railgun fired. Commander Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of the new Mars orbital station and watched construction crews install the massive electromagnetic rails that would form the second defensive platform. The work was slow but steady. In another 2 months, Mars would have its own railgun capable of defending the inner solar system. "It is impressive," a voice said behind him. Jake turned to see Elder Sarthian standing in the doorway. The ancient alien looked like a tall, thin humanoid covered in silver scales. His species, the Archons, were among the oldest in the galaxy. They had been exploring space when humans were still living in caves. "Elder Sarthian," Jake said, surprised. "I did not know you were aboard the station. I arrived an hour ago. I wanted to see this construction with my own eyes." The elder moved to stand beside Jake at the window. "Do you understand what you have done, Commander? We defended ourselves. You did more than that. You changed the fundamental nature of galactic warfare." Sarthian pointed at the railgun platform. For 3,000 years, military conflict in our galaxy has followed predictable patterns. Energy weapons against energy shields. Plasma against deflectors. Lasers against ablative armor. It was balanced. Almost like a game with agreed-upon rules. A deadly game, Jake said. Indeed. But a game nonetheless. Species knew what to expect in battle. They knew how to defend themselves. They knew the limits of what weapons could do. Serthian turned to look at Jake directly. Then humanity arrived and revealed that everyone had been thinking about warfare incorrectly. Jake had heard similar comments from other aliens over the past months. The galaxy was still processing what had happened. Some species saw it as an opportunity. Others saw it as a threat. Is that why you are here? Jake asked. To tell me we broke the rules? I am here to tell you that there were never any rules. Only assumptions. Serthian gestured at the construction outside. Your species grew up on a violent world. Strong gravity. Powerful magnetic fields. Extreme weather. Tectonic activity. Earth shaped humanity in ways that other species cannot fully understand. And that makes us dangerous? It makes you different. And difference is valuable. Serthian paused. The Galactic Council has been debating for weeks about what to do with Earth. Some want to restrict your weapons development. Others want to ban kinetic weapons entirely. A few even suggested that humanity should be quarantined to your own solar system. Jake felt his jaw tighten. And what do you think? I think the galaxy needs humanity more than it realizes. Serthian pulled out a data device and displayed a star map. It showed hundreds of systems, with various colors indicating different political allignations. This is our galaxy, Commander. For 1,000 years, it has been stable. Not peaceful, mind you, but stable. The major powers maintain balance. Small conflicts occurred, but no one wanted a full-scale war because everyone had similar capabilities. Mutually assured destruction, Jake said. Precisely. But that stability came at a cost. Innovation slowed. Military technology stagnated. We became comfortable with our limitations. The Elder zoomed in on one section of the map. Then there are regions like this. Pirate havens. Lawless zones. Places where the Council has no authority. These pirates use older kinetic weapons because they are cheap and effective against civilian vessels with weak shields. You want us to fight pirates? I want you to think bigger than defense. Serthian changed the display to show Earth's solar system. Right now, you are building 4 railgun platforms to protect your home world. It is a good start. But what about trade routes? What about protecting ships traveling between stars? What about deterring aggression before it starts? Jake had not thought about it that way. Earth's focus had been purely defensive. Build the railguns. Protect the planet. Survive. But Serthian was suggesting something else. Active participation in galactic affairs. We are not ready for that, Jake said. We barely understand how the greater galaxy works. Then learn quickly, Serthian replied. Because ready or not, Earth is now a player in galactic politics. Your weapon saw to that. The conversation stayed with Jake for the rest of the day. He returned to Luna Base that evening and found Dr. Linda Hayes in her laboratory, working on new railgun designs. Linda, I need your honest opinion, Jake said. Did we make a mistake? Should we have kept the railgun secret instead of using it? Linda looked up from her calculations. You mean should we have let Earth be conquered to avoid drawing attention to ourselves? When you put it that way, it sounds foolish. Because it is foolish. Jake, we did the only thing we could do. We fought back. We survived. She turned her screen toward him. It showed schematics for a smaller railgun design. But now we need to decide what kind of civilization Earth will become. Isolationist and defensive? or active and engaged. What do you think? I think we cannot hide anymore. The galaxy knows about us. Some species will want our friendship. Others will want our weapons. Some will want to destroy us before we become too powerful. Linda pulled up another display showing messages from various alien governments. Look at all these requests. The Veldran want to establish a joint research program. The Zephan are offering military alliance. The Quen want to buy our technology. And these are just the official requests. Jake scanned through the messages. There were dozens of them. Every day, more arrived. We need to be careful, he said. One wrong move and we could start a war. Or prevent one, Linda countered. Ambassador Wright believes that showing our strength has actually made the galaxy safer. Aggressive species are thinking twice before starting conflicts. They do not know who else might have weapons they cannot defend against. A communication alert interrupted them. It was from Admiral Cole. Commander Morrison, Dr. Hayes, please report to the command center immediately. We have a situation. Jake and Linda exchanged worried looks and hurried to the command center. When they arrived, they found Admiral Cole and Ambassador Karen Wright watching a display showing a small fleet of ships approaching the solar system. Unknown vessels, Cole said. 20 ships. They just dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. Are they hostile? Jake asked. We do not know yet. They are broadcasting a message on diplomatic frequencies. Cole played the transmission. A face appeared on the screen. It was Cathara. Jake recognized the species immediately. But this was not a military officer. The alien wore robes instead of armor. I am Scholar Vethmer of the Cathara Empire, the alien said. I come in peace, seeking dialogue with the humans who created the weapon that shook the foundations of our military doctrine. Karen looked at Cole. What do you think? I think it is suspicious, Cole replied. The Cathara have been silent for 3 months. Now they show up with 20 ships? They are science vessels, one officer reported. Not military warships. Scanners show research equipment, not weapons arrays. Interesting, Linda said. They sent scientists, not soldiers. We should hear what they have to say, Karen suggested. If they wanted to attack, they would have brought more than 20 research ships. Cole considered it, then nodded. Fine. Tell them they can send a delegation to Luna Base, but they come unarmed and we control the meeting location. 2 days later, Scholar Vethmer sat across from Jake. Linda, Cole, and Karen in a conference room. The Cathara scholar looked different from the warriors Jake had seen in recordings of the battle. More thoughtful. Less aggressive. Commander Morrison, Vethmer began. I wish to apologize on behalf of those Cathar who still possess wisdom. High Archon Velanoth was a fool. He believed strength came only from conquest. He refused to listen to scholars like myself who warned him about underestimating younger species. You are saying you opposed the invasion? Cole asked skeptically. Many of us did, but we were ignored. The military faction controlled the empire. They saw humanity as a threat to Cathara dominance. Vethmer looked at Jake directly. Then you fired your weapon and proved we were right to be concerned. But not for the reasons the military believed. What do you mean? Linda asked. The military feared humanity would become strong enough to challenge us. They were wrong. You are already strong enough. You always were. You simply had not revealed it yet. Vethmer pulled out a data device. I have studied Earth's history. Your species has fought thousands of wars using kinetic weapons. Spears, arrows, bullets, shells. You perfected the art of throwing objects at high velocity over thousands of years. For you, the railgun is not revolutionary. It is evolutionary. Jake had never thought about it that way. But Vethmer was right. Humanity had always used kinetic weapons. The railgun was just the latest iteration of a very old idea. "What do you want, scholar?" Karen asked. "To learn. To share knowledge. To prevent more foolish wars like the one Velenath started." Vethmer looked at each of them in turn. The Cathara Empire is changing. The military faction lost credibility when their invasion failed. Scholars and diplomats are gaining influence. We see now that the future belongs to those who innovate, not those who conquer. Over the next hour, Vethmer outlined his proposal. A joint research program between Earth and the Cathara. Humans would share their understanding of magnetic fields and electromagnetic physics. The Cathara would share their advanced,